So today we're here to talk about Deep Racer. I'll go through some of the slides and let's talk about the agenda for this. So overview and session objectives, that's what we're doing right now. So we're going to talk about AWS reInvent takeaways. So I was at reInvent a couple weeks ago, and we're going to talk about one of the announcements that Amazon made at the conference, which is the Deep Racer car, which is here. In that announcement, they also announced a car league. We'll talk about that. And we're going to use this as an introduction to talk about machine learning, and then Deep Racer as an inspiration, and then we're going to do some brainstorming, so that's why we have the papers out. Okay. This is a lunch and learn. So the first objective is to have fun, and we're going to have fun exploring the idea of machine learning and of Deep Racer. So you're not going to come out of here and be able to go teach a class on machine learning. This is just a very high level introduction and a fun way to start a conversation. So it's about the idea of machine learning, Deep Racer. Spur some creative and innovative thinking. So how can we use what Amazon's done? How can we use the technology and to look at how we apply not only this technology as we go about looking at our projects in our business, but how might this spur us to be creative and more creative in our thinking. Fantastic example of the power of cloud services when we look at L and the ability to take advantage of APIs and create business value very quickly. Understanding the dynamics that Deep Racer is leveraging to excite innovation. So reInvent 2018, believe it or not, some of these things were kind of amazing to me. I just have a couple of statistics up here, but Amazon Web Services is only a 12-year-old business. And they have millions, literally millions of customers and billions in revenue. There were 55,000 attendees at this conference. There were 2,100 different sessions across 5 of the largest hotels in Las Vegas. They had sessions on just about everything you would be interested in. They had sessions specifically about our industry, SAP. There were some sessions about SAP and the continuing adoption of running SAP successfully on the cloud on AWS and all the advantages that that brings for a business. They are very, very focused on enabling rapid development for developers and development tools. It's almost like using AWS for infrastructure as a service is almost legacy already. And it's really, there are 3 layers up the stack, and that's what they're really, really focused on, is enabling rapid development, creativity at global scale for anyone, which we'll talk more about what that means for us, but from a competitive landscape, in business there are barriers to entry. A lot of the barriers to entry can be, the knowledge you have about the industry and the financial aspects it takes in order to be able to deliver the service that you might be delivering. They're bringing technology to anyone, anywhere in the world for a pay-by-use model that allows them to consume advanced, infinitely scalable services for $1 here or $1 there. I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you don't have that large investment that you need to make anymore to do things like advanced machine learning. One of the great quotes from the keynote presentation that the CEO made was, you no longer have to choose which initiative you want to go after. You can do all of them and then just turn off the ones that fail. Very agile. I saw this in an article, so I'm kind of borrowing this, but you can really only describe them as a juggernaut. They are moving so quickly. They announced 32 new services at the conference, including this. And you can tell they're just building and building and building, and they're adding and adding and adding. What can we learn about working very closely with key clients to deliver solutions that then we can leverage for all of our clients? Now, we've been doing that for a long time, but if you look at what Amazon has done with Netflix, for example, where there really wasn't a streaming service in the cloud, they worked with Netflix, they created all that product and all those pieces of that product, and now they're doing an amazing job analyzing video, pulling text out of video, and then being able to put that into data lakes and do correlation and analysis on video streams, who's watching, how many times have they watched. how many times has this been said in the video and all this kind of stuff. So very amazing. They're moving very quickly. If I were to make, kind of an organizational recommendation, we really need to find a way to, what I've always called, having a life cycle for emerging technology. We really need to find a way to keep our finger on the pulse of what the big cloud providers are doing. All right, so let's talk about the Deep Racer. When they were given the keynote speech, and he was about an hour and a half into this, and they brought the car out, and they start talking about, man, I've just got this big smile on my face. I'm like, that's us, that's our industry, that's automotive, it's machine learning, it's an autonomous vehicle, it's electric. Examples of IoT, Internet of Things, connected car, all the data this thing pumps out. So you start thinking about big data and analytics, and then the AWS suite of machine learning services. And in particular, the types of machine learning that they're using for this car is reinforcement learning, which is kind of on the right edge. This is on the new frontier of machine learning. So that's the car. So I want to talk in two perspectives: the car itself, Amazon's introduction of the car, the racing league, but then I also want to talk about the concept of the car and what they accomplished from a business perspective by doing this, by getting some guy like me, without asking me, to stand here and go, I've got to show everybody how cool this is. So that's the perspective of the concept of the car and as a catalyst for innovation, right? So a conversation starter like we're having today, a gateway for meaningful discovery and innovation, an incentive to explore and understand and leverage their services, right? So that's great. That's what their main objective is in the end, right? To create that excitement so we consume their services. This car in particular, like I mentioned, there are a couple different aspects of machine learning. What they're doing is reinforcement learning. So the car gets a reward by exhibiting the desired behavior. And if it doesn't exhibit the desired behavior, it gets less of a reward, and less of a reward, and less of a reward. So it learns through iterations where it gets the greatest reward, right? Just like we do. You look at this reward function, it's really only 3 statements, and they're all associated with how far the car perceives it is from the center line, and it adjusts the throttle itself. So it says if you're right on the center line, you're going to get 100% of the reward. If you're X distance from the center line, you're going to get 0.3 of a reward, and if you're further from the center line, you're going to get 0.1 of a reward. Related to cognitive, but if you look at the top here, so deep neural network learning. So this really is taking advantage of something that's at the very top of the hype cycle. Again, I talked earlier about understanding where we are from emerging technology, which of those make sense to us, and how we can watch them to a point where they're right for us, or how early we can get in without much cost, taking advantage of solutions like Amazon. If we apply this same overlay, right, to the human, we talk about that. The baby takes a step, they get rewarded because mom says, "Oh, good, come one more step." So they get the reward, and she's also making an observation. Hey, you're starting to wobble. Hey, maybe mom leans to the left a little bit or leans to the right, or says, give some kind of signal to say, straighten up a little bit. So as that relates to reinforcement learning for the Deep Racer, it's the exact same system where we have the environment, which is the track. We have the agent, which is the car. The agent performs an action, which takes it to a new place in the environment, right? It's 1 millimeter further, or it's 1 millimeter further to the right, or it's 1 millimeter further to the left. It feeds that information back to the agent, which is the processor on the car. And so here's the current state, and the agent says, here's your reward for that state. And it just keeps going. But then there's the concept of, this is a great conversation starter. Are there ways we can do the same things with our products? They're different, but it's, again, is there something 5 degrees away from what they've done that might apply? I was just amazed that they could take something so esoteric and conceptual as neural networks and machine learning and find a way to create something that we can all look at, touch, and directly relate to. Wanted to talk again about this being a gateway for meaningful discovery and innovation. an incentive to explore and understand and leverage AWS services. So this isn't the only service they launched too, and how do we keep our thumb on the pulse of what's going on? Again, knowing that the competitive landscape is changing, that these cloud services providers are putting the same level of technology with infinite scale in my hands. So the intent was to mess around with the car a little bit. I didn't know if we want to do some brainstorming first and talk about these two concepts. I've got some questions for brainstorming, or if we want to play with the cars a little bit first.
Oh, perfect. Oh, perfect.
Wow. Thank you very much for taking this opportunity to watch the Deep Racer Lunch and Learn. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found it informative. Due to the nature of these types of lunch and learn sections, you don't always get a great opportunity to do a closing. One of the key points I was making was about learning from Amazon's product launch and how you might apply those concepts to your own products in your business. We asked 4 key questions associated with mimicking the Deep Racer product launch and leveraging that learning. Those questions are: how can we take advantage of machine learning? How might we leverage the Deep Racer League? How can we mimic the Deep Racer launch with our products and services? And how best to utilize cloud services? I hope you'll be able to use these 4 questions in your next brainstorming session in your organization.